Hello friends, I am Shivaji Bhaskar, Faculty of Russian at the School of Foreign Languages, IGNOU. I welcome you all to this course, Basics of Russian, Communication Skills, Part 1. As you must be aware that in Russian we have discussed about many concepts. We have started with the Russian alphabet, its letters, and then we distinguished them as vowels and consonants. We have also had a list of words and expressions of Russian, so that while learning Russian, we also have our own vocabulary. We also have learned about the verb conjugations and its roles in a form of sentence. Now we are doing a special methodological test in order to understand Russian in a better way. In this case, we are using text as a methodological tool. It is because why? Because we can also use text to express our thoughts. However, in the initial stage, we are using these text in Russian, where you will find the situation is absolutely based on Russian expressions. But however, you can also replace Russian names with Indian names and situations and then make your own texts. So, before I start, I would like to recommend you all to note them down, the special words and expressions which you have learned, and then we will have some examples. So before that, let me tell you the text once again and then we'll discuss a few examples. Alright, so the text is: Это Антон Петрович, он инженер, он хороший специалист, ему 45 лет. Антон Петрович добрый человек, а вот его жена Вера Васильевна. Она тоже инженер, ей 41 год, она очень добрая женщина. Они вместе работают. Сегодня воскресенье, они отдыхают дома. Сейчас Антон Петрович пишет письма. Он любит писать длинные письма. А Вера Васильевна готовит обед. Она всегда готовит вкусный обед. Их дочь Лена учится. Она студентка. Ей 18 лет. Она очень красивая. Сейчас она читает русский журнал «Новый мир». Here, in this particular text, as we have also discussed in our previous module, that we are going to have certain examples where we will use it with какой, какая and какое. And as you already know that why and when do we use these three kinds of questions, because they are specifically belong to the gender of the noun. So as we already know that there are three genders in Russian, that is masculine, feminine and neuter. So the first question is какой, the second one is какая, and the third one is какое. So now we will be having a few examples so that you understand it clearly when and how to use какой, какая or какое. So now we are going to have the first one, какой. So we have certain adjectives and nouns. As you already know, the agreement between the noun ending and adjective endings are a fact, and as a rule in Russian, we have to have the ending of the adjective as per the ending of the noun. So in this case, we are going to discuss about only nouns which are of masculine gender, like журнал, парк, город, человек and день. Now let's pay attention to a few adjectives endings. Новый, красивый, маленький, хороший, последний. Now let's have them as simple sentences. Новый журнал, красивый парк, маленький город, хороший человек, последний день. And now understand the meaning. Новый журнал means new journal. Красивый парк means beautiful park. Маленький город means small city. Хороший человек means good person. And последний день means last day. Here you can also look at the ending of these adjectives. И краткий in case of новый, and it is agreeing with the ending of the noun, that is журнал. In case of красивый, маленький and хороший, you have seen a slight difference. In krasivi, it is ending with u, i kratki, whereas in malinki, it is ending with i kratki. In kharoshi, in pasledni, the case is similar. And as a rule, you already know that when do we have u, i kratki? When we have a consonant which is hard ending. Whereas in case of certain consonants like sha, n, we are having the ending of i kratki. And since we have also learned about the usage of soft sign or tvyordiznak and myakkiznak, in this case we are talking about myakkiznak and tvyordiznak is hard sign. So in this case, in malinki, we have i kratki because it is preceded by ka. So ka, sh and the, we have simple exercises, whereas in certain cases like we have ve, we are ending the adjective ending with u, i kratki. So novi jurnal, krasivi park, malinki gorod, karoshi chilavek and pasledni dien. Here I would like to tell you one example. The noun is park, park, as it has been borrowed from the English language, and you will find certain other such examples which exist in Russian, so that it is very useful and easy for you to remember some of the words like park. Okay, now let's go ahead and pay attention to certain examples of zhensky rod or the feminine gender. How do we frame the question? With kakaya. Kakaya novaya kniga, krasivaya девушка, маленькая рубашка, хорошая женщина and последняя статья. In this case, if you pay attention to the ending of the adjective, we have aya and ya. As you already know that the endings which of the noun, if we have the ending with a and ya, it is feminine gender. So as a rule of the Russian grammar, the ending of the noun determines the ending of the adjective. That is why whenever we are having kniga, девушка, рубашка, the ending of the adjective is novaya, krasivaya, malenkaya. So please pay attention to this aspect. Then if you pay attention to the last example which we are using here is stachya, but if you pay attention to the ending of the adjective is ya, paslednyaya, stachya. So these are peculiar examples which you need to remember in order to communicate in Russian efficiently. However, we will be discussing about these endings in a dedicated module. Alright, now let's learn the meaning of these sentences. However, they are simple because it is just the agreement between the adjective and the noun. However, they make sense. Novaya kniga, new book. Krasivaya девушка, beautiful girl. Malenkaya rubashka, small shirt. Хорошая женщина, good woman. And последняя статья, the last article. So on the basis of these kind of examples, you can also make your own examples. However, please pay attention to the ending of the noun as well as ending of the adjective so that you make correct sentence. Alright, now let's go ahead and pay attention to the last, kakoe. When do we use kakoe? In case of when we have a noun which is of neuter gender. So we have certain examples with us. The words are like okno, zdanie, дерево, palto and zdanie. So there is a very big difference between zdanie and zadanie, but however we have seen and observed that most of the students, if they don't pay attention to a particular udareni or the stress, they make certain sounds and certain pronunciations which are very similar in case of zdanie and zadanie. But since both are different words and different meaning, so please pay attention to this aspect as well. Okay, now look at the ending of the adjectives. We have novaya, krasivaya, malenkaya, хорошее and последнее. So as a rule, the word which ends with O and ye, they belong to neuter gender. Absolutely. So that is why whenever we are having the adjectives, they must also agree with the ending of the noun. Новое окно, красивое здание, маленькое дерево, хорошее пальто, and последнее задание. So let's learn the meaning of these a few words which we have along with the adjective endings we have. So новое, oye, the ending is oye, whereas in хорошее and последнее it is ye. Okay. So новое окно, new window, красивое здание means beautiful building, маленькое дерево means small tree, and likewise you have many other examples. And we also would like to recommend you all, while learning Russian, you may please also look at the dictionaries in order to understand the meaning and gender of several nouns. Along with, please pay attention to the ending where you will have your adjectives in order to express the particular thought in a better way. Okay, now let's go ahead and pay attention to all three together so that you clearly understand that how these three, какой, какая, какой, based on the gender of the noun, agree with the adjectives, and pay attention at the same time to the ending of the adjectives as well as these nouns. So I am going to take какой first and then какая and какое. So we will deal it with one by one. Какой, какая, какое. Новый журнал, новая книга, новое окно. Красивый парк, красивая девушка, красивое здание. Маленький город, маленькая рубашка, and then маленькое дерево. Then we have последний день, последняя статья, and последнее здание. Here you have seen that a particular example where we have used the same adjective is changing as per the gender of the noun. For example, новый. Новый журнал. But in case of книга, it changes into новая. In case of neuter gender, окно, it changes into новое. So новый, новая, новое. However, the meaning remains same, new. But as per the requirement of the ending of the noun, it changes. So with this example, I would like to tell you all that whenever you are going to use the adjective, it would absolutely depend upon the ending of the noun and the meaning of that word. So whenever you are making a sentence, please always pay attention to that construction where it should make sense. So normally sometimes we make sentences which are grammatically correct, but they sometimes don't make any sense. So you have to be very careful about making such sentences which should have certain kind of a thought. Now let's go back to the previous sessions and we will start from the first one where we have the word какой. So when I am framing a question, какой, I actually mean to say that I am asking a question. So какой это журнал? Suppose if I am asking a question, and as a rule you already know that at end of the sentence, if it is a question, of course, the pitch of the sound would rise. So if I am framing a question with the help of какой, and please pay attention to the pitch of the sound, какой это журнал. So which kind of? So here it is very clear that I am asking about the particular type of something. So in this case, what kind of journal is this? It is a new journal. It can also be changed with good journal or a bad journal. Okay, so you can replace it with other adjectives as well, but the question would remain same and the style of asking the question would also remain same. Какой это журнал? Which kind of, what kind of journal is this? Это новый журнал. This is a new journal. Then you can make another question with красивый парк while using какой. Какой это парк? Это krasivi park. This is a beautiful park. If I am asking a question, what kind of park is this? And then the third one, malinki gorod. I can ask a question, какой это город? So I can also say this is a small city. Это маленький город. Okay. So you have a fair idea now how to frame questions. Now let's go to the какая. Here we again have a few examples with us. Let's pay attention how do we construct an interrogative sentence while using какая. Какая это книга? Это новая книга. So I am asking what kind of book is this, and you are answering this is a new book, новая книга. You can also replace it with хорошая книга, плохая книга. Okay, these kind of questions you can also make and answer them accordingly. And further in affirmative you can also answer это новая книга. I can say the это новая книга. And if I want to use нет, I can also use нет это не новая книга. This is not a new book. So you have a set of 4 different style of expressions where you can use the question, then you can answer in a simple manner, then in affirmative and in negative with the help of нет. So the next one is красивая девушка. Какая это девушка? Это красивая девушка. And since in the previous module we have also discussed about что and кто, which means what, and who, we can also use кто это, это девушка. So in animate case, that we are saying that who is this? This is a girl. So however, we are focusing on these 3 aspects, but in the meantime you can also think of using such expressions with a few more concepts which we have learned in our previous modules. Okay, now let's take one more example. Какая это женщина? The answer is хорошая женщина. Это хорошая женщина. So you are answering this is a good woman. And accordingly you can also make several other examples with numerous words and expressions which we have already learned, around 100 or maybe 150 words we have already covered. You can also find them as per their gender, whether they are animate or inanimate, so and use them accordingly, and you will find that not only your vocabulary is getting richer, your thought process in Russian is also getting better. Alright, now let's go ahead and now let's pay attention to the какое. So in this case, when we are asking a question for a word which is of neuter gender, I can ask какое это окно? What kind of window is this? So it can be big, it can be small, it can be beautiful. So certain kind of adjectives which we can actually use. So in this case we are using новое. Какое это окно? Это новое окно. Okay, and then какое это здание? What kind of building is this? Это красивое здание. And accordingly, the third one is маленькое дерево, which means a small tree. Here you can use какое это дерево? What kind of tree is this? Then we actually meant to say это маленькое дерево. This is a small tree. So instead of small, you can also use big. So if we want to say big, we can use большое дерево. As you know that we have just did какой, какая and какое, and as a rule we already know that they are singular in nature. But in Russian we also have plurals, but for all genders when we are making plural we have the question какие. Now let's see some examples where we can use какие. Какие это журналы? Какие это журналы? So journal, which is journal, when we are changing into plural it is журналы. And then accordingly the question from какой changes into какие because it is plural of course. Then the second one is это старые журналы. We are answering, but here you can see the adjective старый, which means old, Starie, journali when changed into plural. Then the next question we have Kakie эти книги. Here if you pay attention to the construction, we have changed it to kniги. As singular, we know that kniga is a word of feminine gender, but we have changed it into Kakie эти книги. So the answer can be это новые книги. Это новые книги. Then the third question, Какие эти письма? From письмо, which means letter, if we change it into plural, it becomes письма. Это последние письма. So from письмо to письма, accordingly the adjective also changes to последние письма. You can also have certain other examples where you can change it with the adjectives. But as a rule, whenever we are changing into plural, both the adjective as well as noun will change. So there has to be absolute agreement between the endings of noun as well as adjective, even if they are in plural form. Okay, I hope this concept is absolutely clear to you now. Let's go ahead and pay attention to a new concept which we are going to talk about. As you have already learned about certain things when we start counting. In our previous module, we have discussed about chas. When we were saying Katori chas, what's the time? So we have said Ajin chas, Dwa chissa, Tri chissa, Chitiri chissa and Pya chisov. I hope you remember. So now we are going to discuss about counting in Russian in a very detailed manner. So as a rule, whenever we are counting, we have certain pattern and there is absolutely clarity in that whenever and how to use it. However, for masculine and for feminine, the counting remains largely same but changes in certain points. Like if I have one friend, I would say Ajin drug. If I have two friends, I would say Dva druga, 3 druga, 4 druga. But whenever I am saying 5, I am saying Pyach druzye, masculine gender. Now in feminine, if I want to say sister, sistra, adna in place of ajin, it changes into, as per the gender, adna sistra, dve sistri, whereas in the masculine gender it was ajin drug, dva druga, or ajin brat, dva brata. But in case of feminine gender, adna sistra, dve sistri, then 3 remains sistri, chitiri remains sistri, pyach changes into sischor. So I hope this very important point is clear, that even in counting we do change, and you will be learning about this in a dedicated module of Raji Chilni Padyash or the genitive case. Okay, but before that, let's count from 1 to 10 so that we understand how to count in Russian. So ajin means 1, dva means 2, 3 means 3, chitiri means 4, pyach means 5. Then we have shest means 6, sem means 7, voshim means 8, jevich means 9 and jesich means 10. This is the basic counting which every student must learn quickly in order to count certain things. However, the counting goes on and on, but the rule which we are going to apply in Russian remains same. So, for example, if you want to say Ajin Brat, so one brother. If you want to change it into one sister, Adna Sistra, and likewise when we are counting, as you have counted Ajin Chas, Dua Chissa, Tri Chissa, Chitiri Chissa, Pyat Chisov, you can also change it as per the requirement of the nouns ending. Now let's go back to the previous part. Here you can pay attention to how do we count 11. Ajinat Sach, Dvinat Sach means 12, Trinat Sach means 13, Chitirnat Sach means 14, and Pitnat Sach means 15. So Ajin, Dwa, Tri, Chitiri, Pyach, Shesh, Sem, Voshim, Jevich and Jesich. Then we have Ajinat Sach means 11, Dvinat Sach means 12, Trinat Sach means 13, Chitirnat Sach means 14 and Pitnat Sach means 15. Then further we have Shisnat Sach means 16, Simnat Sach means 17, Vasimnat Sach means 18, Vitnat Sach means 19 and Dwat Sach means 20. And likewise again, Dwat Sach Ajin, Dwat Sach Dwa, Dwat Sach Tri, Dwat Sach Chitiri, Dwat Sach Pyach, Dwat Sach Shesh, Dwat Sach Syam, Dwat Sach Voshim, Dwat Sach Jevich and Trit Sach. So we have counted from 21 to 30. Alright, very simple concept. However, in the beginning it might look difficult, but if you pay attention to the concept and start doing it regularly with your family and friends, you will find it very easy, and in a matter of a few days you would have a very clear idea how to use counting. But as you know, the counting cannot be used independently, it has to be used with certain nouns. That is why the grammar, its rules are very important. That is why we have done a quite exercises of using the verb like Skolka means how much, Skolka stoit as we say in Russian, and Skolka vremeni, what is the time, and Katori chas, which is also an expression where we use what is the time. And then you can use certain verbs. Strichach means to meet, Kagda when, Kagda strichaimsa, Kagda me strichaimsa, when are we meeting. So then you can use me strichaimsa, Dwa Chisa, we are meeting at 2 o'clock. Accordingly, you can also buy something in the market and say Skolka stoit, how much does it cost. There you can use the currencies like rupee, like rupiah, you can use ruble, you can use dollar, and how to use them in counting, that we will be learning in our dedicated sessions. So I hope the concept is absolutely clear to you all. We will be covering the counting till 100, and we will also be talking about certain other concepts where we actually use the counting with the help of verbs, with the help of many other examples, with the help of situations, so that you have a fair idea. I hope you enjoyed this module. We will be having more discussions on this in our upcoming modules. Thank you.